You're tuned into Soul Fusion Cafe, your place for radiant wellness and soul-forward living. Join your host, Jess Juntunen, quantum healer, intuitive, and midwife to the awakening spirit, as we dive into quantum tools, wisdom teachings, and integrated healing pathways for transformation. You can live a life of freedom to be without limitation. Cozy up, grab your tea, and enjoy this hour of expansion, wisdom, and love. Hello and welcome to Soul Fusion Cafe. I'm Jess, your host, and I'm excited to be with you again this week for another awesome episode of this show where we're exploring all things about wellness and soul-forward living. And today's topic is really about relationship, about our sacred relationship, how to dive into that. What does that mean to have a sacred relationship? And how can we get more of that in our life, in our world? And how do we do that in the face of our fears, right? So to start with, what does that even really mean to be in sacred relationship? There can mean many things to many people. To me, today's topic really zeroes in on that relationship and being in union with ourself primarily, because we really do need to come home to that space within ourselves, whether we're in a partnership relationship or not, or whatever relationship we're talking about, whether this is a familial relationship or a relationship, a friendship, right? We're relating to our world. Maybe it's a relationship with a plant or an animal. And it doesn't matter what kind of relationship it is, the main aspect of being able to really have it be in a balance that is a flow of energy, a flow of giving, a flow of receiving, is that if we're doing that within ourselves, it enriches all of the other relationships. And if you're in a partnership, having that sacred relationship and being in union with ourselves and freeing our partner to do the same, really will enhance our relationship together. And also just exploring some of those questions though of, what if I'm in a partnership with somebody and they're not coming along on the spiritual journey, and I'm doing the spiritual journey piece and the spiritual journey work. What about my partner that I've been with, or so maybe I'm married, and what do we do next? That's often a very big question that faces many of us when we are awakening to our spiritual nature, is that maybe we're already in a partnership or a marriage or a union of some kind, and that other person may not be going where we're going. And how do we balance that, and what do we do? There's often a lot of questions, and everyone will come to that point. If your spiritual awakening is happening while you're already in a relationship, do I stay? Do I go? Do I try to get my partner to come along with me? Those kind of questions are something that everyone's going to wrestle with on their journey as they awaken. So stay tuned. We'll be really diving into a lot of the richness of this, and also in the second half of this episode of this special show, we will do a meditation, a sacred union meditation to unify ourselves and within. So hang in there for the rest of this episode for that. opportunity. So, yeah, what is sacred union? What is a sacred relationship? Again, many thoughts out there on this. This is my perspective from self-ascension. I practice the yoga of self-ascension, which is the study of coming into the truth of our being and living from our heart, coming home to ourselves and being our authentic, true nature in the world, shining our light. So from that perspective, it's really, and this is really a tradition that's without dogma or rules. It definitely many different types of thought fit into this. This is just the framework that I use to try to describe things with words, which words are amazing, but sometimes they're a little limited, but they do help us categorize and understand and help our mind to understand these different concepts. So yeah, in relationship with ourself, it's a big one, right? Because here's how most of us are orientated from birth. Everybody. We are born, we look out into the world and try to figure out what is true for us based on what we're seeing outside of us. And we start to shape beliefs about who we are and how we relate to people. And when we're very young, before we can really even verbalize, we're already forming beliefs, right? We are a small baby child, and the caretakers around us are who we are looking to for our safety, sense of self-worth, understanding how this world works. And we develop a lot at that point that carries us through our life, and it really is like an autopilot. It's a program, and it's just running in the background all the time. And when we start to awaken, wherever you are in that journey, if you're just experiencing a spiritual awakening, or you've been working on it a long time, we start to take more of that responsibility to change our programming, to release the patterns that we don't really want to keep repeating, and we become more conscious and aware that we have these patterns that are just kind of running how we are. But yeah, it's a lot that is going on there. So it's a very rich area to think about. While we learned all about how people relate to each other from our caregivers, whether it was our biological parents or a single parent, or we were adopted, or we had a situation where maybe there weren't parents really available. All of that taught us about relationship and contributed to our own sense of self, our own just sense of self, who we are in the world. So we take these early experiences, and the adults around us are very much like the gods, the goddesses. They are the ones that are showing and teaching the way. So just thinking about that and reflecting on what you may have learned during that time. And we are organized to look at the outside world and try to make sense of who we are from it. And no one, unless you are very lucky, probably taught you that your power comes from the inside to shape the outer world. The experience that we have within us is so unique to each of us, but we don't get taught those skills of how to honor that and cultivate that, and that we can create our world experience unless you had really empowered, awake parents. And more of that is happening now. There are these parents having new beings, and they're being raised in in ways that haven't been seen on the planet for some time. So that's extremely exciting to think about. But most of us, probably had caregivers that were pretty unconscious. That is to say, they knew what they knew, and they had the tools and resources, and they were doing the best they could given what they learned and their circumstances and what was passed down to them. And it varies by culture, it varies by family. And then there's also past life material. We can have almost like a fragment or soul wounds and things that happened before this lifetime that impact us and how we feel about relationships in this lifetime. And we also have encoded within us our ancestors and our lineage and what happened with them in relationships that gets passed down to us. So we might not have even experienced it personally, but something can happen in our lineage and have a big impact and be passed down into the subsequent generations. So there's a lot we're working with. So I guess I preface everything with that because it's a big picture, the way we relate to the world came through us in so many different ways, and we learned it from so many different ways. So be gentle with yourself if you feel like you're not where you want to be in terms of relating to your own self and having the type of relationships that you would desire with others. And then the others, of course, we have to take into account, all have their own sets of circumstances and knowings and tools and resources as well. So compassion becomes a overarching theme of this entire episode. Compassion for ourselves and compassion for others, to really come with a passion, with an understanding that there is more than meets the eye, and to be really gentle on ourselves and with others, because every one of us is doing the best we can given our tools, resources, and circumstances at the time. So to be in relationship with ourselves, let's bring it into that. To be within a sacred union with our own being. Being in union is one of the 4 steps of self-ascension, one of the 4 steps of coming home to our true nature. And to be in union, we must really want it. We must really want and be committed to cutting through our own bullshit to really see and be responsible for our thoughts and our words, our deeds, our actions. And to be responsible means to say, I'm going to see myself. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be committed to my growth and moving forward. It doesn't mean to beat ourselves up or any of that. Releasing judgment is one of the other steps of self-ascension, as well as unconditional love and surrender. And these steps don't have to be in any particular order. Sometimes you spend a long time on one of the steps, and then you're on a different one, and you go back. It's really interesting. Different periods of my life will reveal that I spend, more time in one area or another. So they don't have to be in a particular order, but we kind of need to utilize all of those steps. You can see how they overlap or play with each other. To be in union, we really must release judgment of ourselves, because if we're judging ourselves or our process, then how are we going to come home to ourselves? How are we going to be balanced and whole? And to be in union, we also must realize that we are whole with or without a partner. That is a key. If you're in relationship or looking for a relationship, a romantic partnership, it's very, very important to remember that we really want to focus on our own union within ourselves, that we're whole within ourselves. So this kind of goes back to that conversation of, it will make sense maybe when you look at past relationships, or even your current one that you're in, if it's not going well, or things were not peaceful, things were hard, maybe you've been in an abusive or are in an abusive or toxic relationship of some kind. And this is where it's very important to realize there's a conditioning that happens when we're young, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, that we look outside of ourselves to get what we want to feel inside. So if as a small little being on the planet, when we didn't even, have the skills and knowledge to take care of ourselves, we relied on our caretakers, but we also relied on them for our sense of self, for validation, to know that we were important or loved. And this is no blame or anything on those that came before us. Again, they were doing the best they could given their tools, resources, and circumstances and level of consciousness at that time. A lot of unconscious beings on this planet, right? And again, that no judgment piece of self-ascension is so essential here, because we have to release the judgment of others, right? Sometimes we want to blame our parents or blame those that brought us up, and we really keep ourselves in a victim state of consciousness then, that because maybe we were powerless to create our own lives, we gave away our power, and now we're going along feeling like we can't do things for ourselves and it's somebody else's fault and that's the reason why. And you can stay there if you want, right? We can stay there, and I'm sure we've all played in that area. This planet of form, we've all played in these areas we're talking about. So that includes me, and each and every one of us. So it's okay. Don't judge ourselves. It's a part of spiritual evolution and growth that we all go through to experience all of these aspects. And, we have to take that responsibility for ourselves now. If we're evolving, if we're choosing to evolve consciously, and we want that, then, and that's probably you if you're still listening to this program, we have to take responsibility, meaning, I'm going to see where I'm unconscious still and work on evolving myself to a greater state of compassion and love and receptivity to the truth of my nature. And I'm going to release these patterns I'm seeing. And it's okay if you can't do it overnight. And it's okay if patterns come back even after we think we're done. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm good. I'm all done with that. I've cleared up my relationship with my mom. I've already done that. I'm good. Or, whatever it is we're talking about. That's just an example. Isn't that funny how we think we're all done with something, and then, we go along, and then later on, oh my gosh, there's more content there. I thought I was done with this. And I just chuckle or laugh, because we all go through this. When we are evolving or having an awakening to our spiritual nature and spiritual truths, it's so profound, especially when we're first really coming online. It's always profound, but that experience when we're first coming online, it's big and it's huge and it's rich, and sometimes it's hard. We have to face dark nights of the soul, void experiences where there's the nothing. We crumble into nothing. And we have to rebuild ourselves from it. And we have to look at a lot of things that are uncomfortable. And we do a lot of work. We roll up our sleeves. We do the work. We get the help and support. And we think, phew, good, I'm done with that. And then it's shocking when a theme comes back later. Sometimes a theme comes back in the shape of another relationship, and it it stimulates us to see other pieces we didn't see before of something we thought we cleared up. Relationship overall is such a mirror. It's such a fantastic mirror for what we have going on within us, what we have to work on, our beliefs, what we're aligned with, where our energy is at. I think the biggest reason why most of us seek out a relationship, like a romantic relationship and partnership, is there's an unconscious knowing that we want to resolve some of our pieces and our stories, but we're not really thinking that, oh, I want to go have this relationship so that I can resolve that. And if you've had or are in a painful, hard relationship, then it's very important to look at what are my unconscious beliefs, what is running underneath the surface that led me to be in this place, led me to come here. And it's a big moment for us. And we might have to look at things that we thought we already looked at before. Or it might be something else. It might be a relationship that you have to a neighbor or a pet or a child or a friend that also stimulates something for us to look at, was something we thought we were already done with. And a grace really happens when we do that. That's when we come to a grace and just an understanding and awareness that deepens. I think, again, it comes down to how we're orientated, that we look outside in the world to understand what's happening within us, and we try to get things from the outer world to fulfill what we feel we're lacking inside. That's the orientation we experience in childhood and beyond, and many beings just continue living in that their whole lifetime, and others wake up. And that's, everybody's on their own path, and we'll get to that in a little bit as well. But yeah, our inner orientation is what we really are working with in order to affect what we want on the outside. And then we're responsible for ourselves, and we're not holding other people responsible for our happiness, for our emotional needs. Of course, we do want to have a partnership or relationships with others that have a balanced feeling of nourishment, support. So we're receiving that as we're giving that and honoring one another. But we have to, for sure, be able to do this within ourselves so that we stop holding others accountable for whether or not we feel good or bad. It's really empowering for us to come back to our own selves. It's very empowering to become the creator of our experience rather than one that is subject to the whims of the world. And then we are more sitting in a victim consciousness where we are disempowered. And in a toxic relationship, whether it's a partnership or family or whatever it is, sometimes we hear that term of like giving our power away. And sometimes I do use that, but I've been thinking it's not really that we give our power away. We can't give our power away. But it is that we are contracting and forgetting our own power. We're allowing somebody else's story to be stronger than our own truth for ourselves. We're allowing somebody else's perspective to be louder than our own sense of self-worth. And we are disempowered. We are disconnected from our own power. And power, I mean this in the sense of empowered, like to be with an empowerment, to be empowered, not to have power over another. Anytime we're trying to do that, we are in the land of the ego, and the land of the ego is very strong. And when others are trying to have power over, if we play the game with them and try to fight it, try to reason with it, or anything else, we are disconnecting from our power. We have to detach from what others are doing and go within and heal our own wounds and understand our own selves and bring the energy of love and healing to ourselves and understanding and whatever we want to seek from that other person. So when we have conflict with others, it's a very fascinating way for us to see where our own beliefs are and where we're unbalanced in our own self. If we want to engage with somebody and try to be right in an argument or a fight, if we want them to understand us and see our point of view, if we want them to make us feel safe in some way, to really examine whatever it is that we are wanting from them, that is a key right there to what you need to give to yourself. And this can be whether or not it's a healthy kind of argument or an unhealthy, unbalanced, abusive, dangerous situation. And, cognitive dissonance can be a very real thing that happens in a seriously abusive relationship where what you want to believe is true about somebody doesn't match the actions that they're giving. And you have to either discard your belief about that person, that maybe, that they love you and have your highest good at heart, or that they're a good person, or you saw good things about them. You have to discard the belief that they're going to show up for you that way at this time, or you have to believe what they're saying, and that's when we're completely disempowered, when we believe the story and what they're saying, what they're projecting onto us. And that's a whole different conversation and topic. In my archives, there's a few episodes of understanding what it's like to go through trauma. There's a talk on there. A few talks about trauma or addiction, and there's some talks about the void and dark night. Any of those may give more insight, but of course, definitely encouraging that you reach out and find support if you're in that kind of relationship to get help. I recommend Melanie Tonia Evans' body of work for healing from narcissistic abuse. I certainly do some of that work myself. Get a good therapist. Find a good therapist, one that is going to listen to you and understands abuse, because they don't all. But start finding resources and things that can help you, because I understand, I do, and I understand that you've got to do something to help yourself so that you can not only survive, but thrive. And if you've gone through one of those types of relationships and you're not in it anymore, but you're still suffering, definitely reach out for support and help. Because what happens is, our sense of self gets so shattered, we need help to come back into our own power, to clear the residue and the pain that keeps us from finding our way home, and this could be, again, any type of relationship, not just partnership. So with that all said, relationship is the sacred union within ourselves coming home to. How else can we really try to understand this topic? We've looked at how being within and going within really supports us, and that we have to not look outside of ourselves for that. And when we are really discovering our own connection to ourself, what I'm referring to is, you might call it your higher self or your authentic self. We have many, many aspects. We are complex. But at our center, we have the truth of our being that is always there. Always. And this part of us is connected, however you want, whatever words you want to use, to the universe, to divine love, to higher guidance, because we are an aspect of oneness. We are an aspect of God, Goddess, Source, Divine, whatever you want to call that. We are a spark of the divine. And when we can connect to that part of ourselves, we have access to the answers we're seeking. And we have access to what we have always wanted from others within us. And we will never, ever be satisfied with others and our relationships fully unless we are fully satisfied with our relationship with the self, with the true self, our authentic self. And it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't mean we can't be in a relationship. It doesn't mean we can't be happy. It doesn't mean we can't absolutely love it. But we have to be doing this work, to keep loving our own selves, to keep providing for ourselves what we wanted from others. And then those relationships with others become much more fulfilling and satisfying because we're enjoying the balance of giving and receiving, but we're not attached to that person creating our happiness or sense of safety or well-being. And so much of this is unconscious. I mean, we've all done it, especially if you think back to adolescence when we wanted to have a romantic partner and we mooned about somebody and, wrote our name with their last name in a notebook, or we just got that obsessed puppy dog love. And that is such a prime example of what's going on. We just get filled with all of the feelings and the biochemical response of attraction, which is very overpowering and can be mistaken for love very easily. And many people continue to just mistake those feelings for love and then don't know what to do when those go away because they were filling us up with a feeling, but they weren't enriching our connection to ourself in a deeper way. And then that person can't fulfill those needs. The high wears off and we're left with another person and maybe we do or do not enjoy spending time with them. And it's very, very strong when we have those first relationships when we've never experienced that rush of those emotions before. But it happens in any new relationship, right? And when we leave a relationship, we have to release some of those bonds and ties. Things happen on many, many levels that create a bond between us and another when we're talking about partnership, relationship. We have to allow time for those pathways in the brain and the chemical and hormonal responses to release and kind of come back to a balanced state. That's why it's so painful feeling on one level when we release a relationship, even if it's not a healthy relationship. And then in that case, we have actually developed bonds and trauma bonding and things like that. Sometimes that is a whole different bag. But there's a lot going on here, right? So understanding that it's complex, though, can really help us be a little easier on ourselves, I believe. So to be in union with ourselves as our relationship, how do we do that more? Well, one way is to really begin cultivating awareness, to really cultivate a level of listening and awareness to ourselves and to really be there for ourselves. This is something I like to call self-partnering or self-parenting. I didn't make up those terms, but they are brilliant terms to describe this. We want to really self-partner with ourselves. We want to give ourselves what we've needed. So to really go within and look at, what have I always wanted from others? Not just partnership, but from others, like at work or school or with friends, whatever it is. What is it that you feel like you've always been seeking out? It can be very helpful to bring a hand to the heart and take a breath and connect to that. What have I always wanted from others? And notice what comes up. Notice. And that right there is a key. That is a key to unlocking your relationship to yourself. How can I give myself that which I've always wanted to hear, be told, to know from others about me? That's a key of understanding what it is you need and how you can come into union with yourself. How you can come into that ecstatic, blissful connection with your being, because there is nothing like it on this planet. And then our relationships with others become so rich because we attract others that are also interested in enriching their own selves and lives, and the content and context for the relationships with each other is so deep and amazing. Now, I mentioned earlier, if you're in a partnership or relationship already and you are on a spiritual path and growing, what does that mean? If you're growing and you're looking at your partner and, they haven't been experiencing the growth that you have been experiencing. Many, many, many of us face this moment. If we're with somebody, but one of us has an awakening and the other is not having that experience, we get really afraid. Do I have to let this person go? Is this the end? Do I need to move on? And I can't say yes or no to you in the context of this show. However, you have to start doing that deep inner work in order to find that out. And there is going to need to be a major releasing and relaxing of what that other person needs or is doing. We talked a little bit ago, and so we dive more into everyone has their path. Yes, everyone has their path. Everybody is expanding in the way their soul needs to expand for this journey. Each and every one of us is doing and experiencing exactly what we need to. Even the things that don't feel good have all been things we needed for our soul's journey and growth. Everybody has certain lessons or themes that are their kind of specialty. And when we realize that everybody is doing that, and every single human's journey is their pathway home. And some souls are going to awaken in this lifetime and realize that they are a soul having a human experience, and some are not. And it really isn't our business why or what they are doing. And we have to release judgment. And a judgment means, it doesn't mean we're necessarily saying it's good or bad, but we might just think, oh, they should wake up. Everyone should wake up. I'm waking up. I want, my brother, my sister, my lover, my friend, I want them to wake up. My children. And this is a very natural part of our spiritual evolution and awakening, is to want that for others, and to it is a subtle judgment, and don't judge yourself for having it is the key, right? So often as we develop more spiritually, our ego develops the language that we have acquired and starts using that against us too. And it starts to say, well, how are you a spiritual person? Oh my God, you were judging. judging's bad. No, it's just judging. Let that go. Let go any judgment about what judgment is and relax. It's very funny that we do it. Have to have a sense of humor. Have to have a sense of humor about it. And it's a natural part of the journey we awaken, and we're so excited, right, about everything we're experiencing and seeing and what's happening within us, and we want others to experience it too, especially those the closest to us. We want to see them happy. If they're struggling, we want to tell them all about how they can do what we've been doing. And I still apologize to the partner I had at the time when I've always been awake and awakening, but I also went way back to sleep for a time. And when I reawoken, it was so big. And my partner at the time did not know what hit him. And I was making so many drastic changes. It scared him. And I wanted him to do it too, right? And that just created a lot of resistance and friction. No duh, right? But it's natural, forgive ourselves for doing that. Or if you're in that space now, forgive yourself. It's out of the joy of what you're experiencing is the reason why you want others to. And that's not a bad thing. However, the key is that how it really will work if you're in a partnership and you're wondering if that person's going to come along or not, how it will really work is that you will find out if they're going to or not through your commitment to your responsibility and sense of duty to your own self and journey. When we raise our vibration, everyone around us will be affected. Sometimes people around us don't care for us lifting our vibration because they're not really aware this is how it's happening, but it is making them feel unsafe in a way because you've changed things. And if they're still operating in a level of consciousness where the ego is afraid of that change, right? It's strong, it's going to try to pull you back down to their vibrational level. And it's like saying up and down is hard. I don't like qualifying energy that way, but it's just, a way we can use words to describe what's happening here. The vibration is at a state where they are afraid of, it's stimulating their fears, your growth, and they might try to pull you back in and try to get you to, maybe it's complaining and whining and victim consciousness, whatever it is, try to pull you back into that because that feels comfortable. And then if you're really trying to get them to see things that you're seeing or experiencing, it might just freak them out and not go the way you planned, or a lot of resistance will come up in different ways. So if you are lifting your vibration and you just focus on your vibration, staying in a higher state of peace, love, and joy within yourself, it's impacting everybody, and you're going to see different ways it comes forward. People will be afraid. Some people will be angry and attack it, and this can come in different ways, it's usually words or things, and others may reject you. You might hear that you're crazy or something from people. And with a partnership, it's like even if they're trying to support you, they don't really get it, and you just want them to come along. You want to have a sacred union with that partner. You want to have a relationship that is more divine focused, and they're just not there. You have to do your job and do your work. And over time, that person is either going to start lifting as well because of your vibrational shift. It's just you're modeling it. We don't preach. We don't tell others what to do. It's our actions and our energy that people experience. So if you're consistently doing your work there and living in that energy, the people around you, and if it's a partner we're talking about, they're going to either come along and start doing some of that lifting and, eventually be like, hey, I want to know more about that. Or, you just have to allow them to do so. Or they are going to detach and the relationship may change. It may end. And if that is a scary thought or feeling, that is something to look at as well. This is very complex and too much to go into a lot more deeply in the scope of this show. But hey, shoot me an email and we could set up a discovery session where you can see what it's like to work with me. Or check out, selfascensionstudios.com, or find somebody or some resources to support you that resonate for you. So you can go deeper with that. But yeah, you have to kind of be ready for that. Sometime, whether it's a relationship that's romantic or not, some people in our life will fall away. Some friendships will fall away. And then sometimes when we go into a void experience, again, go check out my show on the void, one of my most popular shows to date. You can check out the archive of that at selfascensionstudios.com as well. And it's really becomes easier though as we go, as we continue to say yes to ourselves in this path and our relationship with ourselves, coming home to ourselves. So we are well into the second half of the show, and I really do want to do this meditation that I've been called to bring forward as a gift during this episode. So for this meditation, if you are driving or doing something, don't go deeply into a meditation right now. Come back to it later if you want to. You can get it over on YouTube at Oneness Talk Radio. You can get it over at selfascensionstudios.com archive, or at onenesstalkradio.com in the archives for Soul Fusion Cafe. And take this moment to just relax the mind, relax yourself, and just begin to follow your breath. And notice where you're sitting or lying. Just notice yourself sinking into the bed, the floor, the chair. Notice where you're connected. Notice how you are being held by the sense of gravity, the feeling of gravity as it holds you. And this is a journey about going within to meet our true self. So we're just breathing and connecting with our breath, following the breath in and out, in and out, in and out, connecting ever more fluidly and deeply with the breath, and becoming aware of our body being held and cradled, and becoming aware of this deep sense and pull from within that is pulling us into our being, into our presence, into our love in this space where the I am lives. It's a deep space within, and you fall, but it's like a floating into it. And it opens wider and wider. You are floating deep within and connecting to a spark of oneness, a light, a brilliant light of oneness. And you're guided to this light, guided, pulled, entranced, enthralled. It's so beautiful. and you travel into the light and realize you are arriving within your true nature. And notice what you're experiencing within your true nature. It's expanded bigger and beyond the form that you are in. It's expanding beyond the earth and beyond all. And it's flowing and it's full and it's rich and it's vibrant. Notice how your energy appears if you were to lift and witness yourself as your true self. What does it feel like? What are you doing? What is around you? Allowing yourself to be nourished by this experience. Allowing yourself to touch and feel the cosmic, divine oneness that is you, that you are. And you expand, and this part of you is growing and growing and growing. And it's feeling nourished by the entire majesty of the universe, drinking in the light of the stars and the cosmos, communing with and dancing with this essence of light and beingness, an ignition, a passion, pure divine love streaming into you, from you, through you. You are a vessel and you are it, all at once. And you send this vibration out from you to touch all the rest of the universe and all of the beings in it. And then you come back with all of this essence, bringing it into your body of form, feeling how it's always there in the still center of your heart, always there to connect to, always nourishing, always supporting, filled with this energized sense of the truth of who you are, your oneness, the spark, the creation, fully bathing your body and loving your body and lifting into the fifth dimension, gazing at your beautiful body of form, feeling the compassion and love for everything that brought you to this moment, and holding gratitude and love, breathing into your fingers and toes, wiggling yourself back into this moment, into this time, into this breath, feeling the truth of who you are with each heartbeat, with each breath, bringing a smile to your face. Namaste and welcome. Welcome, beloved one. I really do hope you enjoyed that meditation. I'm feeling deeply connected with you whenever and wherever you're listening to this right now, as I am to myself. It only takes a few moments to really connect to our true nature and be in union with ourselves. And that is what you are experiencing right now if you participated in that meditation. And you can let yourself float in that feeling or revisit this as much as you would like. And that really is the work in the relationship with ourself, is committing to honoring our true nature and remembering it. Remembering that we are so much more than the circumstances and what is happening in our human experience right now. We have to get that wide angle lens looking at the big picture of what's going on around us. We can get too focused in, but The remedy is to expand and look at it all with the eyes of the compassionate divine. And that fifth dimension is such a beautiful place to lift into often, where we are witnessing ourselves with love, compassion, not judging ourselves, accepting ourselves exactly as we are. And remembering we are a human having a spiritual experience. And that every step we take is a good step. Even if we think we went backwards, we can come back because we remember the way. And we learn something each time. And we refine, and we expand, and we glow ever more from the inside out. And those around us truly do feel like that. And we attract other beings that feel that too. And the sharing and depth of our relationships becomes ever deeper and ever more fulfilling. It has been a real pleasure to be with you for this moment in time. And know that I am sending you so much love, so much support. Have an amazing, beautiful day and week ahead. I look forward to connecting with you again. And if you feel in any way called to reach out, do visit selfascensionstudios.com or on Facebook and Instagram, Joy Love Jess or Soul Fusion Cafe Radio. And I would love to connect with you. Have a glorious moment, and remember, you are a divine being of light and love. Namaste and many blessings. You've been listening to Soul Fusion Cafe with Jess Juntunen. Connect with Jess and learn more at her inspiration hub, selfascensionstudios.com, and over on Instagram at JoyLoveJess and Soul Fusion Cafe Radio, or over at Facebook at Self Ascension Studios and Soul Fusion Cafe Radio. Thank you for listening. See you next week. Namaste and many blessings.